You know why I like road trips so much?
$80.
It creates a space where we can just freely talk. We're on the road, there's nothing that's distracting us. It's just the two of us, obviously with Scotty.
Yes. Every day you're just too busy to just sit down and be like, hey, how are you? It's like so easy to just be like, good, and move on with your day.
Right. Do you think everyone has some type of selfishness or selfish desires that's like innate in them?
100%.
Yeah, because the other day when we got into the fight, honestly, I was definitely being selfish and it just came out of nowhere. I wanted things my way. I didn't want to think about what you would think or how you would feel, and then started like blurting out stuff.
Yeah, me too. I was like so snappy at you. I was like, who are you to talk to me like that? Do you know what I do?
I
It was pretty
know,
selfish.
no, I feel bad because I did my like sleazy way of talking, like just gonna get water for yourself. That's what I mean. I was doing the passive aggressive. I'm not gonna lie. I was like being very passive aggressive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's
I
cool.
was like, this ungrateful.
Mother. That's what you're. That's what you're thinking.
I was like, you ungrateful
Wow.
person. Doesn't care about everything I prepared.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, you want to take it that way? Yeah.
I think it's really important, to be selfless. I think one thing the marriage has taught me was, you gotta wake up every day, and you have to choose to really serve each other and like love one another. Put aside your selfish desires and put the other person first.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think a lot of the time people kind of think love is just like a feeling, but sometimes I feel like if you're controlled by your feelings, it's like the mood. You're like happy one day, sad one day, happy one day. And if you're married, it can't be dependent on your mood. You can't just like choose like
Yeah.
you can't just be like, oh, I'm sad, not gonna love you today. Like you actually have to make the conscious effort to choose to love the other person every day.
Yeah.
Or really remind yourself. In our small group, like it was saying like his sad love
Yep.
is like that self-sacrificing kind of love.
Yeah.
And I never heard of that before, but I think life is more about like less of you and more of the other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If when you say self-sacrificing, it makes it sound so bad, but I always say it's more of serving. Yes, you're pushing away your own desire, putting the other person's desire first, so it can be viewed as a sacrifice, but like voluntarily doing it, like it's coming from innately from the inside. Like it's like your desire to serve the other person for their well-being.
Wanna think about the other person first. It just kind of like creates an environment for you to flourish. Like the other person can flourish, therefore your relationship flourishes too.
Yeah.
Even though like you had to take a little bit extra time of the day, extra effort of the day, stayed up a little later, woke up a little earlier. But that even like it goes for yourself too. Outside of a relationship, when you're feeling selfish, you just want to be a sloth and you want to eat everything. But when you kind of put in that sacrifice, that hard work of like things you don't want to do, it like pays off in the end. So it's kind of you go through little things of like selflessness, and then over time you realize you want to do more and more because it's kind of like a habit. So I think it's like of building a habit of being selfless in a relationship, and it's especially in marriage, like it's something you gotta learn to do.
Yeah, it's like you build each other up. One person does selfless act for the other person,
Yeah.
and then the other person takes that energy and they're uplifted, and then the other person also kind of bounces that off and do selfless acts or acts of service for the other person. So you just keep adding positive, and I feel like that's like a really good foundation on how a great relationship could be built off of.
Yeah. And I think it's not like me versus you anymore. It's
Yeah.
like us. Because if you're doing unwell, I'm doing unwell too.
Yeah.
And it's harder because it's so easy to do things by yourself, but like getting two people to do things is like so much harder.
Yeah. Selflessness is not just one big event that you do for the other person. It doesn't have to be some kind of grand scheme, thing. But rather, it's more like the everyday little things that you do for the other person. Whether that's grabbing like a water for the other person, or saying, "Hey, how are you doing? How are you feeling?" Really tuning in and locking into the other person's thoughts and their well-being.
Yeah, you can always do like grand gestures of like selflessness,
Yeah.
but honestly, like especially marriage, relationship, it's so important. Like everyday, like small things, it's not the destination that matters. It's like the journey that matters. It's like I feel like this trip, so fun. We're gonna eat good food. We're gonna get massages. We're gonna meet up with friends, and yeah, at the end of the day, it's a weekend, a big event that we planned, but just as important, this road trip where it's like the small things that does the journey really counts. Marriage is like a work in progress, just like any relationship, building healthy habits of selflessness.
Yes.
And I think that's how your relationship can really flourish.